Next, in the interview process, we will talk about interview preparation and 8 common interview questions. So, how do you prepare for dental school interviews? Interviewing is a skill that requires practice, and the way you can go about practicing is by developing a Word document, a Quizlet, or a flashcard deck with common interview questions. You can then run through this deck every day and practice your responses out loud. An amazing resource is Student Doctor Network. On this website, students will post specific questions that they received from specific interviews. It's unlikely that you'll receive the same question as another applicant, but reading through these will give you a general sense of the themes of the interview. For example, you might notice a lot of questions regarding community engagement. That means you should take some time to prepare your response in describing your community service experiences. You can also prepare by conducting mock interviews to practice questions with friends, family, and complete strangers. In describing your experiences, I recommend using the STAR method. STAR is an acronym that outlines your response in describing your experiences. So first you have situation, where you describe the background of the experience. Second, you have task, where you describe the task at hand and your role within the experience. Third, you have action, where you talk about your actual work in that experience as well as the reasoning behind it. Finally, you have the result and the reflection. So you describe the outcome of the experience and reflect on the lesson you learned from it. Here we have the number one most common question across all interviews. Tell me about yourself. This question sets the tone for the rest of the interview, and it serves as an opportunity for you to briefly describe your background, your interests, and your characteristics. There are 3 essentials when responding to this question. First, you should include a little bit of background on yourself, including your hometown, your upbringing, the university you attended, and the major you earned. You can then describe 1 or 2 interests or involvements that are personally significant. Third, you should express why those interests are meaningful, as to help the interviewer understand what really makes you tick. For example, you could say, in my free time, I enjoy coaching soccer and organizing service projects. That's awesome on the surface, but if you want to take it a step further, you should include the reasoning why those are important to you. In this case, it would be community engagement and teamwork. Another common interview question is, why our dental school? Alternatively, why are you a good fit for our dental school? This response requires research into each dental school ahead of time. Some common research outlets are the university website, the university social media, or contacting current dental students. One amazing resource that helped me during my interview preparation was the Future DDS YouTube channel. The owners of this YouTube channel have a series where they interview dental students at every dental school across the country. Watching each of these videos will give you a sense of each school's mission as well as their values. Overall, the goal of this question is to build bridges between the university offerings and your personal interests and experiences. In preparing for this question, you should research and memorize certain details of each dental school. Talking about these details will show an active interest. You should also prepare certain experiences and involvements that bridge the gap between you and the university. There are 4 common reasons that people answer why our dental school. First, there is the curriculum, where you can discuss the university's academic approach, clinical opportunities, externship rotations, and service requirements. The second topic that students will hit on is community engagement. For this topic, you should research the specific service organizations offered through the school and connect these organizations to your interests or previous service work. Third, there is the class culture. Here you can discuss the specific on-campus organizations as well as any previous exposures to the dental school, such as information sessions or summer programs. The last main reason for why our dental school are research opportunities. For this topic, you should study specific research projects and programs and connect these to your interests. Another common question is, why do you want to pursue a career in dentistry? Many people share reasons for why dentistry, but applicants are distinguished by the experiences that connect to these reasons. Here are some potential reasons for why dentistry, and you might have a million reasons. But in order to make yourself an understandable and digestible applicant, you should focus on 2 to 3 reasons and connect these to personal experiences. Also know that your why dentistry response should remain cohesive with your personal statement. In your personal statement, if you talked about your love for research and connected that with your love for dentistry, you need to talk about dental research in the interview. Next up, we have describe your shadowing experiences. The common pitfall that applicants fall into with this question is listing random procedures and equipment observed in the dental office. I'm sure all of those procedures were very interesting, but just listing them doesn't distinguish you at all in the interview. So there are 2 tactics that you can take in responding to this question. First, you can provide an overview of each shadowing experience, focusing on what you learned in each dental office. Second, you can describe 2 to 3 things you love about dentistry and connect them to observations or anecdotes from your time shadowing. So, for example, maybe you really enjoy the collaborative elements of dentistry. You can connect this to a story of a time where you observed multiple dentists and hygienists working together to conduct a difficult treatment plan. You could then conclude this story with the connection back to your interest in dentistry. I hope you see that through an anecdote like that, you learn a lot more about the applicant as opposed to just listing random procedures. The 5th common dental interview question is describe X experience listed on your application. This means that before your interview, you should review every experience listed on the IDEA AdSAS application, especially those starred experiences. The common pitfall that applicants fall into is describing the experience with little personal reflection. Describing an experience on the surface level does not tell me anything about you as a person. This means that for every experience, you should prepare a response that highlights a different personal attribute or lesson learned. Here is the approach to answering this question. First, you can describe the experience by explaining what was the organization, what was your role, and how long were you involved. Second, you can generally describe why the experience was meaningful. For example, I really loved being a part of this tutoring program because it allowed me to serve my community. Third, you can focus on one anecdote that highlights a personal attribute or lesson. For this part, you can use the STAR approach that we talked about earlier. Next up, we have why dentistry over other healthcare professions. For this question, you need to note the differences between dentistry and other healthcare professions. Some examples include manual dexterity, greater potential for practice ownership, or previous shadowing experiences in other healthcare fields. It's important that you run the line of expressing your opinion without diminishing other healthcare professions. The 7th common dental interview question is what distinguishes you from other applicants? A common pitfall here is providing a generic description of academic achievements. Most applicants at this point in the cycle have strong GPAs and DAT scores, so you should generally stay away from those topics. Here is how I recommend you answer this question. First, pinpoint one unique skill or personal attribute that connects to dentistry. Second, provide examples of how you have developed or demonstrated this attribute. When I was interviewing at dental schools, I received this question and talked about my problem-solving skills. I developed these skills through my chemical engineering curriculum and demonstrated them through my work on my university's accepted student stay committee. When COVID-19 hit in March of 2020, our committee was challenged to transition from an in-person to a digital format. I had to play a large role in solving that problem with the rest of the committee. On this slide, I have lumped together 2 questions as the final common interview question. What are some of your weaknesses? And describe a mistake that you have made and what you learned from it. These questions are similar in that both ask you to reveal either a negative characteristic or a negative experience. The goal of these questions is to test an applicant's ability to recognize faults and improve. Your approach here should be to remain honest, positive, and professional. When responding to these, there are some deeper level questions at play that you need to consider. For the weakness response, you should answer the question, how are you actively working to improve upon this weakness? And for the mistake response, you need to answer, reflecting on your experience, how would you approach the situation differently? In addition, what were the takeaways from this mistake? By answering those in-depth questions, you will have a stronger response at large. Here are some additional common questions. I recommend pausing the video here and adding these questions to your collection. That way you can run through them leading up to your interview.